people. It's remarkable how many different ways that we communicate. We live in a civilization where there are endless ways to express ourselves. Different manipulations and fads of communication are constantly affecting the changing verbal landscape. Language and speaking grows every day with new slangs, phrases, and idioms. One phenomenon of language that has emerged as a touchstone for modern interaction is profanity. But why is this a part of speech? And where did it come from?
Not memories of the first time I swore, but memories of my decision to swear, because my mom never cursed around me. And she always said, you know, when you start cursing is when you're going to hear it out of me, because she didn't want to influence me. You know, she was like, I don't really need it to express myself. So I never heard my mom curse. And then sometime around, I don't know, 10, I start cursing because kids in school are cursing. I come home and I say something, you know, I'm like talking about school. I'm real disgruntled. And I don't even remember what I said. Maybe I said shit or something. I didn't even say it like I wasn't pensive or anything. I was just speaking. And as soon as I do it, the next week, from then on, the rest of my life, my mom curses. And not a lot. Never heavy-handed. Never fuck this, fuck that. But just enough for me to realize, like the first time she did it, that holy shit, I made my mom start cursing. And that was pretty creepy. Didn't keep me from cursing, but kind of fucked me up.
I think when I was in high school, profanity, few words were very fashionable, so I used them. Okay, and I think when I was in high school, you know, we probably overused them.
Back when I was like in the 7th or 8th grade, I remember a lot of the kids had started to curse and stuff, and I was always brought up in the church, non-denominational Christian, and we were raised not to curse. I never thought it was a positive thing, but it seemed cool at the time, so I tried to fit in and try it. And then when I got to high school, I was trying to curse and stuff, and it just wasn't me. It didn't sound right. I didn't put words together right. And I remember one time I called the teacher, so bad, I called her a B. And this other boy in my class, he's a Christian. He's like, Manov, I thought you said you were a Christian. So then I was like, I am. Why'd you say that? And he's like, then why are you cursing? And so then I was like, well, some Christians curse. It's okay to do that. Such and such curses, blah, blah, blah. But it just kind of put things in perspective for me. I realized that I was just doing it because other people did it, and it wasn't really me at all. So that's why I chose not to curse. Well, that's why I stopped cursing.
You talk straight out, man.
No, I said, come on, sit in my office like that.
Everybody say sit back like that.
I'm gonna be like,
well, how you gonna sit, friend?
I'm gonna sit straight up. Yeah, you trying to project a certain image anyway, though. You don't want to come off. You can't be in a business setting, man, acting like you in the hood.
I don't know what to tell you, big guy. I came up on cussing. It's household language, so I'm used to it.
Basically, it's gonna be hard to detect when was the first time you cursed, you know. But as a child growing up, you hear it every day on TV, in your house, school, wherever. So therefore, it's a form of expression. You curse basically to let somebody understand, get somebody to understand that you mean what you say. Sometimes, like, you know, if you got a bad kid, a parent might say, sit your fucking ass down. When they hear that fucking, they know, damn, she not playing.
I'm gonna come in on you, man. Don't do it.
Memories like you profanity early on? Or
my first time using it as a teenager. I guess about 15,
I did it. Don't do that, my brother. I did it.
Okay. Do you have any stories about that?
Well, the only reason I learned it really was hearing my parents say, you know, in an argument. You know, nothing violent, but just, you know, arguing. That's the first time I heard it used. But as a youngster, I wasn't very not allowed to use it. You know, I was very disciplined coming up, you know. And basically, the only time I would use it, I'd use it out of anger, but nothing as far as physical anger. You know, just somebody would, you know, say something to me, I would, you know, say something back to them. But I don't think it's right, you know, because it's disrespectful. That's what I believe.
I hate to say it, but I do use profanity, but I don't use it a lot. But sometimes when I get upset or mad, I might say some profanity, but I'm not a person that really like to use it like it's English or you know what I'm saying. But basically when I'm upset and I'm mad, but I just think it's just something that...
you know, it also depends on who you're around.
True.
Yeah. And you got people that don't use profanity, you won't use it.
Well, see, when we came up, you couldn't use profanity. See, it's something that this profanity thing really came around the last, say, like what, 30 years? And see, when we came up, man, damn was a bad word. Remember?
I used them a couple of times when I was in middle school or whatever, and felt incredibly guilty about it. And it wasn't until recently that I actually was able to start using the society's dirty words in terms of in terms of descriptive manners, like, you know, and I used to be that I would spell out a dirty word or whatever, and it gets ridiculous because it gets to be almost childish.
But now I don't curse. When I get angry, I say things inside my head. Inappropriate terms, that's what I should say. Some terms like that. I still don't say those out loud, but sometimes it depends on what's going on that I do use those words now. How many times I cursed, I can't really count.
Unfortunately, whenever I'm excited about anything, just about anything. I mean, if I'm excited about something, if I'm like, oh, you know, that was so fucking dope. You know what I mean? It just comes out. It's like, you know, if you're real calm, there's no real reason to curse. You just don't need it. You know, it's like an exclamation point on everything. You don't need it.
You know what I mean? If you repeat it in front of a baby, that's what a baby gonna say when they grow up. Mother F this, mother F that, you this, you that. You ever see a kid just walk around and curse all day? That comes from the parents. Parents, aunts, uncles, whoever.
Because I went to a Southern Baptist private school, and my mother was Presbyterian and my father was Baptist, and they were divorced, I got a lot of mixed messages. And, you know, yes, my dad cursed around me a lot. My mother would use the basic curse words. And I was taught at school that all cursing was wrong, just like I was taught at school that all drinking was wrong. And my parents both drank. So I got a lot of mixed messages, and I kind of instantly gravitate towards the more pious of everything as my personality. So I've always been the type of person to take on rules for myself that I don't apply to others. So it was not a problem for me to say, oh, I can't curse, but well, if that's what you do, you can do it. So that's what I did.
That's why, yeah, like little kids in Chinese store just cussing. Hitting the windows, talking to the Chinese people all kind of ways, man. It's real deep.
It's deep, but see, I think again...
Because their parents ain't around.
Well, I think again, the moral fiber. See, look, if the parents is cussing, I think the kid's gonna cuss. Like, for instance, one day I'm sitting in the car, I'm waiting for my wife to come out. You know, it was a street like Redden Street, and it was two girls with their daughters walking in the middle of the street. Dude coming down with his car. Now, I guess he probably don't want to honk at him, because he know they see him coming. But he got him so close, he honked the horn.
Right.
Girl turned around, you motherfucker, what's wrong with you?
Young girl?
Yeah, the girl. Two daughters now. One had a daughter, the other one had a daughter. The little girl looking up at mom cursing. I started to roll the window down and say, well, look, you know, you think that's cool? And then I thought about it. Better leave that alone.
You get cursed out.
Right.
Like Will Smith. No, I'm talking about right now in the day. Can anybody make a rap song with no cursing?
No, it won't sell. That's how negative people are.
Exactly.
We thrive off of negativity in life.
Exactly.
That's how messed up we are.
Right.
No, that ain't true, man. That's true. That's not true.
Why it's not true?
Yeah.
Man,
well, it all depends on who you are.
Everybody
I never heard Jay cursing his song.
That's not true, though.
Like, you know, in these last few years.
I mean, elaborate on that. Why it's not true?
I'm talking about these last few years.
Talking to you, Jay.
Everything my man was saying is true, but you gotta understand, like cussing is part of Ebonics for the black community. It's a culture. So when you listen to music, you gotta be able to relate to it. And that's part of our culture. Dance. I'm just saying. We embrace that. We embrace that.
But
culture.
you might make some positive out of it, but the next man can't.
But what I'm trying to say is, if you move to a different area where you're not used to the surroundings, you wouldn't like it. So when you hear country music, when you hear country music, sometimes you don't like it. When you hear pop music, sometimes you don't like it. But they sitting here criticizing rap, but that's the music that they like. But then they saying it's not always good.
Everything
that's a contradiction.
that you like not good for you.
I embrace my culture. I don't go out and do everything I hear and see on TV, but I recognize it's who I am. As far as cussing, that's an emotion. If a girl walk in here and she got a fat ass, I'm gonna say she got a fat ass. That ain't negative. She look good to me. That's a compliment.
Well, little children just mimic their parents sometimes, and when you hear it come out of their mouths, then you have to realize where they got it from. But the other part with older children is the lack of language. So they're using it instead of learning language.
My parents, they never really cursed around us when we were, especially not when we were younger. Never cursed at us. I know some people do that as well. It's kind of funny when I was younger. Once again, back in the middle school days, I asked my dad one time. I was like, "Daddy, how come you don't how come you don't curse at us?" And he was like, "Well, would you want me to curse at you?" I was like, "Well, sometimes it's okay if you get mad or something. It's okay if you wanted to." Because I just thought that was interesting, and my family just didn't do that.
Just like one of my customers was telling me he was on the bus. They were going downtown. The kid was on the bus just cursing, talking about they were going down to the prison, cursing, carrying on. So a white guy turned around and told the girl, "You know, you too nice a young lady to curse like that." And she blowed on that white boy. Scared the white boy so bad he said the white guy got off early.
Can we communicate our thoughts and ideas without words that could potentially hurt? Is there a way that we can project humor, frustration, anger, or pain without using these base terms? And if there is a way, would you use it?
Because you gotta understand, profanity is not used everywhere. You know what I'm saying? We use it, but it's not used everywhere you go. The world can definitely go without profanity, man. It doesn't benefit us in any way by using profanity at all. At all.
If you don't play ball,
remember this, man. People usually use profanity because they don't have the vocabulary to express themselves the way they want to.
That's one of the biggest reasons. It's one of the major reasons. A lot of people use profanity because it fills in a lot of those gaps in their conversation.
You know, if you can't discuss something without using all that gutter talk, what good is it? You know, if I asked a guy one time, I said, would you do that in front of the Pope or the President? He was trying to convince me that was nothing wrong, right? He said no. I said, well, why wouldn't you? If it was all right, right? He couldn't answer the question. He couldn't answer because he knew he was wrong for saying that.
Nah. Why? Because whether you're using a profane word or a profane gesture, like a finger, or or like a phrase, like I said, like if you were really broke in the Middle Ages, you probably knew tons of curse words. But that's not to say that the rich people didn't know curse words. They just probably had more elaborate phrases to insult people. So I think you're always going to have some kind of expletive to figure out, to just make everything that you're saying sound more, I don't know, like have more impact,
I think that it's something that's inevitable, but I don't think it's something that's required. I think it's something that will happen, but I wish that it didn't have to.
I definitely think the world can make it without profanity. As I said earlier, and I keep saying, there's plenty of other words out there to use.
See, cursing is in every language, just like your name is just like it's
it's in Spanish. It's
right. But the question is, can we do without cursing?
Yeah, we can do without.
I think we can.
We can do without.
But I think the only way you can do that is your attitude and your behavior.